In 99 days, I will be on a flight to Spain to do the Camino de Santiago for a second time. My name is Eunice Uni Kim, and I'm doing the final 100 kilometers between Vigo and Compostela de Santiago, which is part of the Portuguese way. This is part of a video series that I'm doing about preparing for the trek, and I do get a lot of questions about my overall experience. And so for this episode, I asked my mom to give me 5 questions to answer. And yeah, this one's for you, Mom. They're all for you. So the first question she asked was, why did you go the first time? My mom's really asking me this question because I'm not a religious person, and her context for the Camino de Santiago is primarily one of a spiritual nature because it is a religious pilgrimage. Well, first, the reason why I decided to do the Camino de Santiago was because I wanted to change my relationship with travel. For me, travel up until doing this trip was primarily about family and work-related obligations, and I really wanted to go on a trip where I was choosing to be there. Like I had the option to not do it. And I went anyways. And I think after when I took the trip, I had been at Webtoon for 8 years and I hadn't really taken much time off because I was very focused on achieving a very specific outcome. And I finally felt like I had the opportunity to take a break, and I really trusted my team to hold things down for me. So I felt like I finally had the mental freedom to go on a trip, to prioritize my personal experience for the first time in a long time. At this moment, I had been playing a lot of Pikmin Bloom, which is a walking game, and I was just discovering that hiking was having an incredible impact on my mental health. And so I was looking for opportunities to go on a walk with purpose. And my colleague and friend, Samu, was telling me about how her father did the Camino de Santiago and how it was an incredible, transformative experience. And once I expressed a little bit of interest on the internet, I was fed video after video of people glowing about their experience on platforms like TikTok and Instagram. And I was like, maybe I'll do it. And then I started telling people that I'm gonna do it. And then once I started doing that, all sorts of people came out of the woodwork about their own experience or the experience of people that they had known who, again, had a transformative experience on this journey. So I locked in, I bought my tickets, I told work I'm gonna take a little bit of a sabbatical, and I just made my way over to Spain. And while I was doing it, I was kind of shocked that I was there. But yeah, that's why I did the Camino de Santiago for the very first time. So the second question that my mother asked was, why are you doing it again? And her commentary underneath that question was, I don't think you got what you wanted the first time. Now, I think if you follow anyone who's done the Camino or you talked with anyone who's done the Camino, they will oftentimes tell you that they want to do it again. And in fact, while I was doing the Portuguese way, I met a man who had done it 7 times and he was in his 70s. And so personally, the reason why I am going back and doing it again, there's a few. One is I feel more aware of my body. Like I can recognize pain differently in my body. I can recognize strength differently. And I'm really proud of what it's capable of doing. And I will say that hiking has become the main way that I've been managing my diabetes. And I was talking to my dietitian about, motivations that we may have. And it's funny because it overlaps a lot with what I talk about at work, which is intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. I am someone who has a lot of intrinsic motivation, and I think that's what keeps me passionate across so many different interests. But I realized that extrinsic motivation is not a bad thing. And for some people, extrinsic motivation looks like looking a certain way for their wedding. And for me, it looks like preparing for a giant hike somewhere in a different part of the world. So, um, yeah, I'm discovering that I can lean in to extrinsic motivation, and with extrinsic motivation, sometimes you unlock different elements of intrinsic motivation, and that's what I'm really finding about travel and the overall experience of doing something novel. So going forward, I would actually like to do a really big hike every year, whether it's within the US or abroad. The reason why I'm going back and doing the Camino de Santiago Portuguese way specifically is because the only time that I have this year to go on a hike is in like November and December. And in terms of weather in Europe, I kind of narrowed it down. And you know what? I was like, if the weather is going to be possibly a little outside of my comfort zone, because here in the San Francisco Bay Area, like it doesn't get snowy or that particularly cold, I wanted to be in a place where I felt a lot more confident about navigating and addressing my needs. So that's why I'm going back to do the Camino de Santiago for a second time. The third question that my mother has for me is, what was your deepest moment while you were on the Camino? This is going to be pretty cheesy, but I felt an intense amount of gratitude on the third day that I was on the trail. The first day of the trail was when the news of the US election came out, and I was certainly rocked by that. And I had a lot of fellow travelers who were from different parts of the world, expressing pity, perhaps, about the US's political circumstances. And so the first 2 days was thinking a lot about the future and kind of also getting my legs on the trail. The physicality of the Camino was at the top of mind for the first 2 days. And by the third day, I had met a few people that I had deeper conversations with, and they became some of my closest friends on the Camino. And I had a lot of time to reflect on my own experience because, like I mentioned earlier, I'm very much a person who's like, you know what? Go ahead without me. Like, I am going to take my own pace. And if we don't see each other again, then I'm glad we had this time together. Don't wait up for me. I am not going to be speeding up for you. I was definitely doing the Camino my way, And so I had been talking to a friend, and not just this friend, but other people that I met, where it seemed like the Camino was really appealing to people in transitional moments where maybe they were in between jobs, or maybe their circumstances at home were changing, like children growing up and leaving the household. And they were thinking about themselves in terms of roles and what no longer served them. And it made me really reflect on whether or not I was going through that, or what kind of roles I have played. And I feel really, really grateful that I feel really grateful for my circumstances. I am also really grateful to my past self for doggedly pursuing authenticity. And I didn't feel like I didn't, and I still don't feel any sense of regret over a decision I had made in my past. And yeah, that feeling, like as I think this was the day that I ended up in Pontevedra, and I like walked into the city and it was like pouring rain. And, my mother tells me often that ever since I was a baby, I never did anything that I didn't want to do. And I, again, feel grateful to my past self for embodying that. And I felt really grateful for the circumstances that let me pursue that. So yeah, that was my deepest thought. Secondary, not secondary, but another deep thought that I had was about fiction and the role of text in our lives. A couple of years ago, I had started listening to a podcast called Harry Potter and the Sacred Text, where it was two theology students who were using sacred reading practices on secular texts. And I am someone who reads certain books over and over again every year. One of the series that I read is his Dark Materials trilogy. And while I was in Spain, I was actually listening to it in Spanish. And so I think, even though I'm not a religious person, I think we all have different spiritual practices. And yeah, it helped me realize like the ways that I am in tune with spirituality. Again, that can be close readings of text, and also catching a sunset. For me, that's a pretty transcendental experience. The fourth question my mom has for me, coming back, has your life changed at all because of the experience? Yes, absolutely. And I think my life has changed in a way that my mother would be very happy to hear. The concept of discipline has changed for me in a very fundamental way. This is the first time in my life where discipline was about dedication and not punishment. As I just talked about, I've never done anything that I didn't want to do, which can include like pushing myself towards excellence in some shape or form. And so when I was really little, like I refused to play the piano despite being enrolled in many years of piano lessons. I would full stop just absolutely refuse to play. And so, as someone who maybe felt like I wanted to excel in things that already came easy to me, this entire experience of gearing up for 100 kilometers required a lot of planning and addressing of areas that I was weak in. And I find that I enjoy this process, which is a huge shock to me and probably a huge shock to my mother as well. It made me think a lot like I mentioned before, I encountered a good number of people who were able to do the Camino at an older age, and it made me think about what I want to be able to do at an older age. Like I mentioned, I have diabetes, and so I know I'm going to be on medication for the rest of my life. And it's long been a goal that I've had with my healthcare providers that I want to decrease the amount of medication that I'm on over time, so that when my illness may become more difficult to manage, I'm not already dealing with a lot of different medications that might have interactions with each other. And so that's why I am thinking about doing a really big hike every year to build in that extrinsic motivation to move me towards my the goals that I have through my intrinsic motivation. I want to feel really good in my body and be able to do the things that I want to do at an older age. So yeah, I've been thinking about that quite a lot since, and I think I've been doing a lot of things to address it as well. The final question my mom has is it better to do it solo or with a friend? And we both acknowledged when she asked me this question that I don't really know yet, because I have only done it solo. And I've met friends along the way, but that's not really the question she was asking. While I was doing it last year, I did feel that it would be an incredible experience to share with someone that I already knew. I saw multiple families. I saw some parents with 2 younger children who were biking the whole way, and they seemed to be doing it with relative ease. I encountered a multi-generational family multiple times where the grandfather, who, wasn't like super steady on his feet, would walk a bit and then take a taxi to the next town and meet the rest of his family for lunch or for dinner, wherever they ended up. And I also saw like three friends who were doing it, 3 women from Colombia. And I think there is so much enrichment that can happen if you are collectively working towards something together. So, when thinking about the Camino for myself, since I don't do it for spiritual reasons, I think that maybe there could be like a mismatch between me and my traveling companion if our goals aren't aligned. And I think that like I said before, collectively moving towards something together, especially if that process is difficult, can really bring folks together even further. So that's my hope with this upcoming trip, is that both my friend Devin and I can identify what it is that we want to share, and even if our goals are not the same, to be able to articulate those goals and kind of express what it is that we want and need. So I'll have to come back to this question after I do the Camino for the second time. But those are my thoughts right now, is that I think it can be an incredible experience as long as everyone is either explicitly aware of what everyone else wants from the experience, or you share a collective goal. All right, with that, I think it concludes this episode. I know I teased in my last episode that this episode would be about all the fun stuff that I've been doing to prepare for the Camino. I just wanted to let you know that I am on day 14 of watching Shrek in Spanish every single day. So again, I'm just giving it up all right now. That's primarily what I've been doing.